Hello there everybody, how's it going? It's Jessie from Jessie Marie Does Stuff here on FlossTube, and I am coming to you on this Friday, February 16th, 2024 with my next very overdue update. So before I get into everything, welcome everybody. Welcome to both my returning viewers as well as anybody who is checking out my channel for the very first time. On this channel I talk mostly about cross stitch, though sometimes I talk about books and knitting. And today it's going to be stitching and a little bit about books. Very little book segment. So just talk about the things that I'm currently reading and what's coming up. So yeah, that's what we have on the docket for today. So before I get into showing you the projects, I guess we'll address the fact that I haven't filmed in like 6 weeks or something bananas like that. I don't know, y'all. I don't know. There have been things and stuff. Life got in the way. I chose stitching over filming, etc. We'll chalk it up to that. I actually did film last weekend. I did. I filmed a whole video, start to finish. And I started to edit it, and I realized that I hated it. I don't know if it was just the I haven't filmed in forever rust, but I just wasn't a fan of it, and so I never ended up finishing the editing process. So that video still exists, but you'll never see it because I'm never gonna upload it. And so I thought, okay, here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna pretend that video uploaded, and so then this video will just be a catch up from the last week, and then we'll just try to get back on a regular routine. So that's pretty much what we're going to do. However, I have had 2 finishes and 2 new starts that otherwise wouldn't be included in that conversation. And so we are definitely going to show those here today because, like I said, finishes not super common around here, and some new starts that deserve a little bit of time in the limelight. So that's what we're going to talk about. And then we're going to talk about February and some generic February plans, And then I'm also going to do my stats for January because fun statistics coming out of the month of January, and I would like to share that with you all. So let's get right into it, and we are going to start with the finishes that I have had since my last update video. So first up was a project that was called for me for January WIPGO. It was on my Finish It WIPGO board. And when I last uploaded a video, I can't really say when I last filmed, but when I last uploaded a video, I was working on this piece, and I talked about doing like 150 stitches a day to see the finish before the end of the month. I never picked it up for that purpose. However, I got to the last few days of the month, and this was my last goal, and I had a few days. January seemed to go forever. So this is Horror Movie Alphabet by CloudsFactory, and it took me about a day and a half. I was in the mood this time around, and so I was able to get it finished. So let me show you the finished piece. Oh, it's so cool. So cool. I haven't done my signature because I'm not really sure where to put it. I feel like just sticking my signature down here in the bottom right corner, like it's just going to be floating there and nowhere, but yeah, I don't know. I'm not quite sure. I've thought about adding in like some red, either like specialty stitches, so Jessica stitches and eyelets and things like that, just to try to fill some of the empty spaces. Like there's the margins here, since each row has a different number of characters in it. So I've thought about doing that, but I'm not feeling the pressure to do that, shall we say. I might just leave my signature off this one. That's probably how it's going to end up. But anyway, so yeah, Horror Movie Alphabet. I love this piece. I know that this is a bit of a polarizing piece. My viewers, either you love this piece like I do, or you kind of don't like it at all. And so I'm not going to show it for too long, but I have I have a long love, a long history with horror movies, and I really enjoyed this piece. I started this on Friday, May 13th in 2016. It was my first official mania, and so I started it for Friday the 13th. Pretty perfect. I actually started down here with Pinhead because Pinhead is from my favorite horror movie franchise, and specifically the second in the franchise, which is the Hellraiser series, and the second one is Hellbound. So Pinhead is my favorite, and then my husband loves the Rob Zombie films, so I just love that Otis and Pinhead are there right next to each other. I'm not gonna go through like my connections, my love for each of these movies, but just some fond memories in this one. Okay, one quick story. Leatherface from the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. It came out after my 17th birthday, and so I went to the theater to go see it with a couple of friends, and the guy selling the tickets would not accept my ID. He said, "No, this is a fake. I'm not selling you a ticket to this movie." I don't know what this kid's deal was because he couldn't have been much older than I was, but he was committed to the fact that I was not old enough because I've always looked younger than I am. So he would not sell me a ticket to see Texas Chainsaw Massacre. So we bought tickets to go see the kids movie and then snuck in because we were teenagers, and so, you know, to be expected. Anyway, I love this piece. I was able to, for those characters I didn't know, Jack Attack was unfamiliar to me, Q the Winged Serpent is unfamiliar, and Yellow. So I looked all of them up to try to get a sense of their films, and I can't find Yellow. I don't know who that is. So if there are any horror movie aficionados out there watching this who know who Yellow is and what movie he's from, that would be great. I found a yellow character, but definitely a human person wearing like a yellow trench coat, kind of vigilante style. More than this appears to be naked with a tail. So yeah, I don't know who that is. So if any of y'all happen to know who Yellow is, let me know. I'd be curious to know. The fabric here is 32 count Belfast linen in Lycan's Moon by Under the Sea Fabrics. This was old fabric of the month. I mean, I started this in 2016, so it's old. Sammy J. Stitches is working on a piece on Lycan's Moon linen as well, and it looks so vastly different from mine that I'm certain that the dye lots have changed over the years. So it's just a gorgeous purpley maroon dark splotches. This fabric was nicknamed Dried Blood by Brittany of Ingleside Imaginarium many moons ago. And so affectionately it is Dried Blood. So that is my horror movie alphabet. I wish there was a 2. I know that filling 26 characters was a challenge, but like I would have loved Pennywise. I know we already had a clown with Jack Attack, and then there's also Babadook and some of the more modern horror characters. I would love to do a version 2 if one ever exists. So anyway, that is my horror movie alphabet. So that was finish number 3 for 2024. Very exciting. And I finished that up on the 28th of January. Okay, my next finish. So I'm doing the year-long event with the Daily 30 group, and one of my original pieces for that was January by the Cricket Collection. Since I finished that earlier in the month, I needed to replace it. And the Whipco draws for February did not help me. They didn't help me at all. So I just decided to choose what my next project was. I was in the mood for cottage garden samplings, and so I went with this piece. This is the Swans. This is from A Year in the Woods, that beloved series. And so I worked on this for a couple of days in January because I just felt like it. I had the freedom. I had no goals left with like a whole day and a half left of the month. I had no goals left. I had accomplished all of them, which is unfathomable. But anyway, so I spent about a day-ish on this, a little more than a day. It qualifies to me as 2 days, but it was, anyway, that's neither here nor there. So I worked on this a little bit in January, and then I worked on it again in February and got the finish. So that is what they are meant to look like. And here they are all finished up. And this is on a fabric that was a different project, but I have since UFO'd that project and repurposed this fabric. So I'm just gonna fold that bit over. Oh, I love it. I love this. I love the way it turned out. Yeah, I love cottage garden samplings. I mean, if you've been with me for any length of time, you know that I have a long love for cottage garden samplings, and this is no exception. I'm a big fan of this piece. This is on a 32 count Belfast linen in Night's Watch by Hand Dyed Fabrics by Stephanie, or Fabrics by Stephanie, I think is what her business name actually is now. So I intend to stitch this whole series. They are all going to be on 32 count Belfast linen, but they are not all going to be on the same fabric. So each of the seasons is, the way that it was originally pitched is that each of the seasons could be stitched on the same color fabric, or all on one fabric. All of mine are going to be on different colored fabrics, all 12 of them, but staying within the same theme. So this was my choice for the Swans, and I love it. I really love this linen, and I have half of my quarter plus once I frog that. So I have plenty to play with. This linen is really, really gorgeous. So I started this for Super Duper Tuesday. It was February 22nd, 2022, landed on a Tuesday. And you know how I feel about those fun number dates and sort of number pattern things. So I definitely had to jump in with this. And so this was my start on that day. And it matches all of the twos. There are 2 pine cones, 2 swans, 2 different colors for the trees. This is A Year in the Woods, number 2. It was my second start from the series. It even worked out that, like, finishing it was also in twos. I worked on it for 2 days in January, and then for the second time in 2024, I worked on it for 2 days in February before I saw the finish. The number of days took to stitch, I think, was 13, so that doesn't really work. Let's see, what else was it to? I know 2 people in my real life whose birthday is 2/22, and that was my grandma and somebody I went to college with. And I know 2 stitchers whose birthday is 2/22, and that's Belinda Aussie Stitcher and Jen of Quirks and Stitches. So all of the twos, just all of the twos. I really should have stretched it out to be like 22 days to stitch it, but I was just so geeked to reach the finish line. So this is finish number 4 for the year, which I guess is kind of twos-ish in and of itself, 2 squared. So anyway, that is my finish of the Swans, and I love it. I love it. So now I need to pick a new piece for the daily 30-year-long event again. And so I'm waiting for WIPGO calls to see if maybe that will help me choose what the next one is. Okay, so let's get into the most recent new starts, the new starts that I've had since my last update video that posted. So in January, I got a message from Mandy. She is Stitching B82 on Instagram. She is Mandy Parker here on FlossTube. I'll be sure to link her channel in the description box. she's a great enabler. So she sent me a message attempting to enable me, and she said, hey, have you seen this Etsy shop, Luthien Art Shop? And she showed me the preview of a gorgeous, gorgeous purple design. I think it's called Love Potions, or maybe Love Potion number or something. Now I can't remember the title of it, but preview here of what it will look like, what it would look like finished. Gorgeous. Purples, fabulous. And I said, actually, I have heard of Luthien Art Shop. Have you seen these designs? And so we got into a conversation about enabling. And long story short, we decided that we would start one of the designs from this series offered by Luthien Art Shop together. And so we started it on the 27th of February. So fun fact, I found out that Mandy and her mom share a birthday month, and myself and my mom, we share a birthday month. And so I thought that was really, really interesting. So what we started was from their birth flower series. And so I know that Mandy started July for her birthday and her mom's birthday, and I was gonna start April, but I decided to go with January because I had already purchased January. I was gonna start it on my daughter's birthday on the 12th of January. And I was originally enabled by this. We got a name and blame here. I was originally enabled towards this series and this shop by Alara, who has started the January one. I saw in her extravaganza whip parade, new starts parade, fun. So I was enabled at that point, and then I planned to start this on my daughter's birthday. I ended up not getting to it on then, but then it all worked out. And so Mandy and I started on the 27th. Preview here of what January birth flower will look like. The birth flower for January is a carnation, and I love this series. I really, really love this series. It's going to be a lot of work. It is not full coverage, but it's basically full coverage, no background with a border. They're big. They're really big pieces. But so much fun. So much fun. So here is where I got to after a couple of days. I worked on this for 2 days to get it started. 3 days. Just kidding. So I worked on this for 3 days. This is on a 40 count Newcastle linen in I do not recall what this fabric is. So I'll put it down here. It's from Coloring Cotton. I know that much to be true. It was a fabric of the month at some point or another. But I don't have it here with me. And it's done all in DMC. It is Pattern Keeper compatible, which is just so much fun. And so I got going on this super fun, fairly elaborate border, but also like really quite zen. Like you can just really get in a good groove with this. I am a big fan of how this is coming together. So I am tempted to take out the January line. And then I think I would take out just one row of the border, one chunk of the border, because you can see they're kind of individual units of the border. So I would just take out one row of the border and scooch everything up a little bit. Or, I don't know, because I don't love the font that they used for January, and I don't know if it's really necessary. I like the bold and kind bit. I like that each of the flowers has their like attributes for each of the months, but I don't love the months themselves, so I might skip that. I don't know, we'll have to wait and see. So with all of my projects this year that are not full coverage, my goal is 1,500 stitches. If I get any more than that, then that's a bonus, but the goal is 1,500, and then I can consciously put it away for the year. So I reached 1,500 stitches on this. So we'll see when I can get back to this. I'm hoping I can. It's not going to be February, I'll tell you that much. But nonetheless, I really love it, and I will enjoy working on it for a long time. Am I going to do all 12? That's a good question. Glad you asked. I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to do all 12. I'm certainly going to do 3. I'm going to do January, April for myself, and December for my husband. just so that I have our family represented in the flowers. But some of the other ones are gorgeous. That larkspur for July is stunning. So we'll see. I am on the fence. But anyway, I love this. And I love that Mandy and I got to start these together. And just very fun. Very, very fun. Sales with friends are the best. Okay, so my next new start happened here in February. And so I think I can flip my calendars here to February. So Whip Go calls were 3 and 24 for the month of February. My number 3 was May Quaker, which is just icing on the cake perfect because that was my next one to start. So this is kind of covering double duty because this is also one of my small monthly goal pieces, but also I have it for Whip Go. So it got a good chunk of progress. So my monthly Quakers live in this project bag. This is by Black Cat X Stitchery. And like I said, May Quaker. Now these Quakers are by From the Heart Needleart by Wendy. And I started these last year. I know several folks are working on these right now. A bunch of folks worked on them last year with FlossTitcher for the stitch along. I am either super early or way behind. But anyway, so I got May Quaker started. My small monthly goal for these pieces is at least one large motif and some small motifs if I feel like I have the time to spend to work on the small motifs. So this big one right here was my large motif for the month of February. And that about by itself satisfied my 1,500 stitches goal for my Finish It Whip Go board. So that was pretty fantastic. And so I got this started. So these I am stitching on a 28 count antique white cashel linen. I am stitching them 1/1 full cross. So they are tiny and adorable. And I'm going to either finish them or have them finished as individual pillows, but they're kind of all on one big piece of fabric right now. And so you can see those ones that I have finished. And here is my start on May. Oh, I love this. I wish I had a board. I really need to step my game up and get a board. But anyway, I really, really love this. I really, really love how this is looking. So because I'm stitching this so tiny, it felt silly to me to buy the Classic Colorworks. I don't have a large stash of Classic Colorworks, and so I would have to buy basically all of them. Each of the 12 calls for 3 different, so we're talking 36 Classic Colorworks. On top of the fact that stitching them so tiny, the variegation, you're barely going to see it. I mean, it'll be rare that you see any kind of variegation. And so I decided to go with the DMC conversion that Wendy provided. And so for the second time, when I pulled these colors, I was like, those aren't right. I should go back to the drawing board here. The purple that you see there is supposed to be Classic Colorworks Pickled Beets. And I think that that's kind of a newer shade because I can't seem to find anybody that has a resource for a DMC conversion for that. So the conversion that Wendy came up with was 3726. Looking at Pickled Beets online and looking at it here on this stitched version, I would have pulled something like 3837, like a deeper purpley purple rather than a pinky kind of purple. Like I would have chosen differently. And so I almost did, but that was like, no, you know what? I'm just going to go with it. Wendy knows what she's doing. Trust the designer. And so I really love it. I really do love it. Now, the pinks are different. It's more pink than it is purple, but I'm not mad at it. I really kind of like how this one looks. The darker green is also darker than the charted version, which I believe is camouflage. Yeah, but that's not super big deal. So anyway, I'm going the wrong way. So that is my May Quaker started. And I will get back to this in March, maybe to finish it. because I think my definition of a large motif, the May circle is the last one on this one. So, and it doesn't look too terribly complicated. This one was a lot. I mean, nearly 1,500 stitches all by itself. So we'll see. We'll see what happens when I get back to this in March. I almost stitched this start to finish because this went so well and it went so quickly. You get one strand of a 2-foot working length on 28 count 1/1, and it goes forever. Forever. It's real easy to get 100 stitches in 20 minutes. So anyway, that is my May Quaker started. Okay, before I get into February, basically the last week, before I get into the more recent projects, let's do some January statistics because I have some fun statistics. January was the longest January, I think, ever. And I don't necessarily say that in a bad way when it comes to my stitching. So, at the beginning of the month, I started with 93 projects. Technically 92, but Touching the Autumn Sky rejoined the active whips. So, I started the month with 93 projects. I had 2 new starts in the month of January. My January birth flower, like I just showed you, and Graves Knows No Bounds by the Stitchers for Peace initiative that I showed in my last update video that uploaded. Over the course of January, I had 3 finishes: April Quaker, January by the Cricket Collection, and Horror Movie Alphabet. So I ended the month with 92 works in progress. So very, very cool. Me getting more finishes than new starts is just kind of an anomaly. So I had 0 no stitching days. I stitched all 31 days in the month of January, which was great. I stitched a lot in January. A record amount, actually. Yeah, I was leaning hard into the stitching in January, and I stitched a lot. 23,460 stitches in January this year. Wow. I mean, wow. Yeah, January is usually a pretty good stitching month for me. I usually hang out around 19 to 20,000 stitches in January. Crushed that by 4,000. And that is my record of the years that I have kept track of this. This is the highest January I have had. And my numbers go all the way back to 2018. 2017 is when I really started tracking the number of days I spent on a project. 2018 is when I started keeping records of the number of stitches I did. And so, yeah, 23,460. Bananas. So that averages about 750 stitches a day. That's just wild to me. I'm fascinated by that. Okay. So my focus for the year is on full coverage. I'm going for 24 full coverage page finishes this year. I am pushing for the finish on Personal Sunshine this year. I am trying to put the emphasis on full coverage, despite the fact that I haven't shown you any yet this far, and we're 30 minutes into this video, but never mind. So I pulled the specific full coverage related statistics. I worked on 4 full coverage pieces in the month of January. Personal Sunshine, Quick Stitch Day and Night, Quick Stitch Once Upon a Fairy Tale 2, and Secret Stitch. I worked on those 4 full coverage pieces in January. I spent 18 of the 31 days on full coverage. And 1 stitch counts as a day for me as far as this number goes. So 18 of 31 days I spent on full coverage, which is great. That lines up with what I want my goal to be. It's what I want my focus to be on. And then total full coverage stitches, I did 12,250 full coverage stitches in the month of January. So that is a little over half of the total number of stitches I did. So on track there. I did a lot of non-full coverage stitching, but that just means that I just did that much more full coverage stitching. So that's pretty good. So these numbers, they make me happy, but also apprehensive, because this is a pace that is absolutely not sustainable. It is not sustainable. Like, not every month feels like it has 4,000 days in it. February here is almost over already, and I feel like I just blinked. And I know that the rest of the year is going to feel like that. January, for whatever reason, just feels like a very long month. And I love January. January is like one of my favorite months of the year because it's cold and I don't know. Anyway, it's not sustainable, this pace. Crushing these records like this is just not something that I'm going to be able to do regularly. And so I have to temper my expectations tremendously because I can't anticipate being able to do this. That's just not life. That's not how all of this works. So anyway, that's that information there. Just some fun statistics, and hopefully I will continue to talk about the full coverage stitches specifically. And maybe I will keep records of this throughout the year so that I have a combined information. Like I spent 275 days on full coverage this year and did hopefully 100,000 full coverage stitches. That would be really cool. That is the statistics for January. Okay, let's get into February. And really, we're just going to focus on what I did for the last week, with one exception, pretending that that video I filmed last week I actually uploaded. Okay, it's February. It is full coverage February. So exciting. Just a lot of fun. I was really looking forward to full coverage February this year, and making sure that I put the extra emphasis on it here in this month. So Colette, the Highway Stitcher, and Stitchin' Mommy, they kind of co-run full coverage February. Colette, the Highway Stitcher, on her Instagram is Colette Stitcher. She does a weekly post where she asks a question about your full coverage stitching style, and then she's doing some fun giveaways. And then she also created an acrostic. And so the acrostic for this year was confetti. So 8 letters long. And I decided that for my acrostic, I was going to set the goal at 1,000 stitches for each of the letters. I know that both Colette and Sarah did, they spent a day on each of those projects that they had chosen for those various letters. But I'm not one to switch projects every day. I like longer goals. So I decided to allocate 1,000 stitches to each of them. Colette releases the acrostic a few days, I think, before I did the Whip Go draws for February. And I was so excited because there are so many of my projects that have lots of different elements in them that I would be able to fill out an acrostic no problem. It pulled one project for both goals from my full coverage board. One project. And not only that, but it was one of the projects that I was going to have the hardest time trying to squeeze in to this acrostic, try to fill this acrostic. I was really hoping that I could use just my full coverage Whip Go to fill out this acrostic, and it did not work out that way. I mean, it just really didn't. I had to get kind of creative to fill out this acrostic. So I'm going to insert here the picture of the acrostic and what I chose for each of the letters. And you're going to see there, haunted house. That's not my full coverage Whip Go this month. I really wanted it to be because I was really in the mood to work on it, but no, it was not originally in my plans. I think I had found a way to get, it was probably Personal Sunshine, into that other tee. But then Mandy, queen enabler that she is, Mandy made me do it. She was talking about her haunted house a few weeks ago by Heaven and Earth Designs, artwork by Dona Gelsinger. And I was like, oh, I really want to work on that. Do you think I could squeeze it in addition to everything else I'm trying to accomplish in a February that's already shorter? Well, I did. I found a way to squeeze it in. It may mean that some of my goals get bumped, but that's okay, because 1,000 stitches on one of my favorite pieces, worth it for full coverage February. So that lives in this project bag here. This is by Vintage Owl Lady, and it features a Gasly's print, which I adore. I adore this piece, or this project bag. Preview here of what this will look like finished. So as I said, my goal was 1,000 stitches, and everything in me wanted to spend way more time on it than that. But it's going to still come up twice for full coverage whip coat, so I am going to spend some more time on it. So let me see if I can work through this gigantic piece of fabric. This is by far my largest piece, and I pulled it for that T for tallest because it is also my tallest full coverage piece at 833 stitches tall. She's massive, and I love her for it. So 25 count easy grid Lugana from Zweigart, and I have just the daintiest little start. So I put in 1,000 stitches in one day. Yep, one day. This is a bit of a tougher project for me to work on because it is so far to this side currently that I have to, I'm doing some yoga poses stitching on this one. But anyway, it's still just so much fun. The confetti is a lot of fun. I'm making a leaf, which is great, and a star, and trees, and the blue sky. I love this piece so very much, and I really enjoyed my 1,000 stitches on it. So I wanted to spend more time on it, but I set the goal at 1,000 stitches. It was already an extra piece in amongst an already short month. 29 days feels like an awful lot less than 4,000. So I did my 1,000 and I put it away. But this will come out again, and maybe next month, if the WIPGO, if I will cooperate. So that is Haunted House. Now we're going to get to very current. We're going to get to the last week. So last Saturday was February 10th. It was Lunar New Year. And it is now the year of the dragon. I was born in 1988 in April, so I am also year of the dragon. I love some dragons. And so I was really, really excited and had been planning for several weeks to have this dragon new start for a couple of months actually. Erica from Fibers and Floss Canada and Samantha from the Huga Stitcher, they were doing a Year of the Dragon sale, and it's ongoing. It's throughout the whole lunar year, so into February of next year, of next Gregorian year. So I hopped on with that because I was just really, really geeked to start my dragon piece. So that lives in this project bag. This is the back of it. This is the front. This is by Jasmine's Custom Bags. Very much fourth wing. Yeah, love it, love it, love it, love it. With the Endarna Gold around the outside. So I started Cherry Blossom Breezes by Heaven and Earth Designs. The artist is Carla Morrow, and I'm gonna need at least 3 more Carla Morrow dragon pieces because I really, really love her artwork. I really, really love it. So I got this started on the 10th. I worked on it the 11th and a little bit on the 12th because I had a really horrible ocular migraine on the 11th. So I spent a little bit more time on it. I did not get near as far as I wanted to. I think I had this pegged for 2 spots on my acrostic, and I did not get to 2,000 stitches. I'm just going to have to be okay with that because I can't spend any more time on it. Not this month. So, again, 25 count easy grid Lugana from Zweigart, 1/1 full cross. This one is so little. She's really little. This fits on my small Millennium, which is 24-inch bars. Yeah. So that's really, really exciting. I did do that with just a 2-inch margin on the sides and 5 inches on the top and bottom. but that's plenty for me. So that was really exciting to have another full coverage piece that can go on my small bars. Anyway, I love this. I really, really love this. I love this so much. So, of the places that really celebrate and honor Lunar New Year, China is a big one, and one of the really lucky colors for Lunar New Year is red. And my first stitches were 902, which is in red. So I'm just feeling all the things. I'm just feeling all the things, just very positive about this. Not to mention 902 is maroon, so it's more of a purpley red, and rather than a true honest red. But as a hokey maroon, it's perfect. I just love it. I just love it so much. And I got into the pinks and into the tree. This is so much fun. I'm going to be in the pink of these cherry blossom trees forever. The top of the dragon's head is at the bottom of page 3, somewhere over here. And so I'm probably going to stitch this one just straight across the pages so that I can get to the dragon's head because I really want to. It will be a nice change of colors to get into some blue. I'm so excited about this. I'm really just so very excited about this piece and to have it started. So this is on my full coverage whipco board. It hasn't been called yet. And so my plan for that originally was 2,000 stitches. I've instead decided that I'm going to stick on it my goal like I have for everything else, and I'm going to get to the half page. I'm not going to get a page finish on this year unless by some miracle I hit all of my goals super early. I don't foresee that happening. But I'm going to get to at least the half page. This one is so adorable. And I mean that in a cute way because it's only 160,000 stitches and just gorgeous colors. I mean, just really automatically a favorite. It does help that I'm in the mood for full coverage these days. That definitely helps. Okay, so next we're going to get into Personal Sunshine. I've worked on Personal Sunshine several times since my last update video. I spent a day on it at the end of January because I had reached my fill, so to speak, with the Swans, but I still had an unexpected stitching evening on the 31st. I worked on it for a couple of days at the very beginning of February. It came up in the days before I started Cherry Blossom Breezes. And then after I decided that I had done as much as I could at this time on Cherry Blossom Breezes, I went back to Personal Sunshine. Because at this point it was the 12th of February and I had accomplished none of my original full coverage goals. So it was time to try to knock one out. So that lives in this project bag here. This is by the Brass Button. I do adore this bag. And this is Personal Sunshine. The artist is Jeremiah Kettner. This is a retired pattern because Jeremiah Kettner is no longer with Heaven and Earth Designs. Preview here of what this will look like finished. This is my piece that I have broken up into 12. I had a little over 66,000 stitches at the beginning of the year, divided that by 12 to see the finish by the end of December. And I am on pace. A little, just barely a little bit ahead. This is on a 25 count Lugana, just a plain antique white Lugana. It never was gridded. It never was pre-gridded. I started this before that pre-gridded stuff was really readily available. And when I last showed this to y'all, I was working on page 4 up here. And obviously, you can see I've got the page finished. So that happened on, let me think, the 14th is when I got page 4 finished. Oh, it's so pretty. It's so pretty. So because of the lighting and the space in here, the coverage doesn't look as good as it does in person. It is what it is. But I think it's looking fabulous. If you want a real true idea of what it looks like, head over to my Instagram. When I got the page finished, I posted an overall picture so that y'all could see where I finished the month of the whole piece. And that's really what the coverage looks like in person. It doesn't look this spotty in person. But anyway, oh, so much fun. So much fun to get the top half of the sun completely finished. I was at about the halfway point, so a quarter of the sun is now done. Got through some of this background that annoys me because it's like more colors than actually makes sense. It's Kettner's artwork. Kettner painted with acrylics on wood, and so you get this dynamic, colorful background. And the only way to achieve that is with adding more colors, but it just, I don't know. For whatever reason, I get really frustrated in this section. Maybe because it's a lot of colors and you're not actually making anything. And then I got into the next Happy Cloud. And I even got the eyeball. So, fun fact, I don't love kawaii style. The faces on things that don't otherwise have faces is not typically my aesthetic. But for whatever reason, this piece, I am endeared to it, despite the fact that the sun has a face and the clouds have a face and arms and they're holding the sun. I don't know. For whatever reason, I'm okay with it in this particular situation. Anyway, so that is page 4 finished. So let me think, 4, 7. I have 7 pages now done. Next, I'm going to get into page 9 here, where I will get another quarter of the sun done. And yeah, just keep moving forward. Just keep going. So my 5,500 stitches would have brought me to like 250 some odd stitches left in the page. So yeah, I definitely stitched a little bit extra this month. I haven't been telling y'all this. By the Numbers is a counting event with Full Coverage Fanatics. And once again, this year, I am trying to accomplish all 4 tiers. There are 4 tiers that you can choose from. I'm trying all 4 of them with different projects. So my 500 stitch tier was Cherry Blossom Breezes. My 1,000 stitch tier was Haunted House. My 5,000 stitch tier is each and every month Personal Sunshine, because I mean my aim is 5,500 stitches, so might as well, right? So there is that. Some other fun milestones I reached. I surpassed 50,000 total stitches into this piece. I am almost to 50%. I am nearing 50% on this one, and I will get there fairly early on when I get going on my next page. So very, very exciting. Finally, a full coverage goal complete in February. Okay, so I reached that goal and I debated working on some non-full coverage things because I do have some non-full coverage goals each month. I debated working on one of those, but as I have said numerous times so far this year, and I think even a couple times this video, the focus is on full coverage. And so I decided to finally get into my full coverage whip go. And so this month, like I said, it was just one project pulled for both. And so that is Avarice by Heaven and Earth Designs. The artist here is Marta Dalig. This is from her 7 Deadly Sins series. This is a piece that my husband bought for me when we were just dating before we got married. Long before we even got engaged. He bought the chart, he printed it out, he took it to Michael's, bought all of the threads for me, and surprised me for a dating anniversary. And then I started it on our first wedding anniversary in 2017. So super, super fun. I really do adore this piece. The color palette is not my favorite to stitch with, but I love the piece that I'm just going to keep going. No questions asked. And so yeah, so this was called for both of my whip goes. So I am cropping this piece, by the way. I have cropped off the bottom 2 rows of pages. The bottom row of pages contains the label of avarice, and I just didn't think that that was really something that I wanted to have hanging in my house. It was just a sign, hey, we greedy. It just wasn't about it. So I cropped off that row of pages, and then looking at the piece overall, I feel like the figure is lost in her miles of gold dress, and the gold dress is stunning, and I'm really looking forward to stitching it because I'm in some high confetti right now. I'm really looking forward to stitching the dress, but I felt like she kind of shrunk in amongst all of that dress. So I cut off a row of pages of the dress. So it shrunk this piece down to about 153,000 stitches total, which that's pretty good. When I started it, I had grand plans of how quickly I was going to stitch it. That's just not going to happen at all. So I think if I had kept up with it, I would have finished it like 3 years ago. So anyway, so let me show you the progress that I have made, and we'll go from there. I am working on page 2 that you can see there. I am really excited for page 2 because I'm going to get 2 of the diamond motifs that sort of ring around her. I'm really, really excited to stitch those diamonds. It's going to be confetti, but at least it'll be confetti that's worthwhile because I'll actually be making something. I'll be making a discernible something, which will be great. I am almost to the right side. I normally stitch the top row of blocks, but I wanted to get into some confetti because this background is 1 or 2 colors at most, with the exception of this little line. Yeah, so it's 1 or 2 colors at most, and so I wanted to get into some confetti, so I'm just stitching in my diagonals rather than the top row first, and then going into my diagonals. Doing this one a little bit different. Last year, I did a whopping 1,000 stitches on this piece in total. It came at the very end of the year, and so far since I've started working on it yesterday, I've done 700 stitches. So that's pretty cool. So my goal for the piece for this month is the page finish. I don't know if that's necessarily going to happen. We'll just kind of have to wait and see. I'm going to spend the next 5 days at least on it. And then after day 5, I'm going to reevaluate if maybe I feel like switching. Otherwise, it's a really long rotation with, like I said, not my favorite color palette. It's not super duper colorful. It's a lot of shades of brown, which I don't dislike brown. It's just not my favorite color palette to stitch with. Anyway, so after day 5, I'm going to reassess. I may take a short break. I may just decide to just keep going, but I'm going to get at least one of my whip go goals, the half page mark, before I switch. And then we'll kind of go from there. Again, 25 count easy grid Lugana from Zweigart, 1/1 full cross. All of these pieces, I've subbed out the black for anchor black, but otherwise called for DMC, 1/1 full cross. As is my way. It's my happy place. So that is my progress thus far on Avarice. Okay, so let's talk about some plans here real fast. So I'm working on Avarice, like I said, for at least 5 days or until I get the page finished. We'll just kind of gauge after those 5 days. I have a couple more small monthly goal pieces to work on. Touching the Autumn Sky, Summer Sampler, and Secret Stitch all need their small monthly goals. What else do I have? Whipco. So my Finish It Whipco board, my number 24. So that's what I have here. and that lives in this beautiful project bag. This was made by Nicole of Nicole's Needlework. And in here, I'm really excited about this because I haven't been able to do any reproduction sampler stitching. That's the back. Reproduction sampler stitching yet this year. And so I'm really geeked. Let me pull this out of the plastic. Okay, now we're ready. Yeah, haven't been able to do any true reproduction sampler stitching yet this year. So I'm excited to spend some time on this. So this is on my Finish It Whip Go board. I have no assumptions that I'm going to finish this. Not in whatever small rotation I am able to give to it this month, not this year, given the focus on full coverage. However, as I mentioned, my full coverage Whip Go board is comprised of one project with a birthday in each month that is the closest to a finish. And this is my closest to a finish from September. Even though I have spent, I think, 2 days on it. Because this is the smallest. I have started some gigantic pieces in September. In years past. So, Jane Walker, circa 1800, by the Scarlet Letter. And just to show you my starting point here, this is on a 40 count Newcastle linen in travertine by Color and Cotton. And I'm stitching it using the called for DMC. And I have a little start here. Just a little start. So I'm super geeked to get back to this and to stitch some more letters. Maybe get into some of the fun illuminated letters down here would be really great. So we'll just have to wait and see. So my Finish It Whip Go board, the goal is progress or finish it. And I have decided to call progress as 1,500 stitches into all of my non-full coverage pieces this year. So 1,500 stitches I am hoping to put into this one. It may be a case where I don't get that 1,500 stitches this month and it's going to have to hold over till next month or another month down the line. Also included in my Finish It Whip Go board are all of the remaining monthly Quaker pieces by From the Heart Needleart by Wendy. But I'm stitching them in order, and I have decided that I'm going to stitch them in order. So if, let's say, in March, November, and December, monthly Quakers get called, I'm not working on them next month, so I may have the ability to squeeze, if I don't get the 1,500 this month, I may be able to squeeze this in to that. This is about 1,300 stitches because that was my goal last year. So I am optimistic that 1,500 stitches shouldn't be too bad. It shouldn't be too bad. So super excited to work on this again, like I said. Okay, and then the last plan that I have to talk about is the 29th, so Leap Day. Leap Day on February 29th, and so we are having a Leap Day unicorn sale. I am starting one of my unicorns that I was able to track down for not gobs of money, and so I'm really geeked to get it started. So I'm going to be starting that on the 29th. Stitch whatever I can that one day and hopefully spend some more time on it in March. And that is Sunflower House by Blackbird Designs. This is an out of print, rather hard to track down. They come up on eBay. I need to stop my save search. They come up on eBay. I'd say once a week I get that email that there's a new one available, ranging in prices. But maybe this one will hit the reprint. Maybe. I'm hopeful because I know a lot of folks want to stitch this. So I'm really geeked to start Sunflower House on the 29th. I don't have fabric pulled for it yet. I would really like to stitch it on Stratus. So if I could find another piece of Stratus by Color and Cotton, that would be ideal, because I think that would be pretty perfect. Let me see what's the called for fabric on this one. Friendship Blue by R&R. So yeah, Stratus would be great. Anyway, so that is that. Oh, that's fantastic. The original purchase price is on here. $8. I did not spend $8. I spent a few $8. So anyway, that is the plan for the 29th. And so that concludes the plans for this month that is racing. February always feels so short following January, so it will be no time at all before it is March. So speaking of March, I will do the WhipGo calls next Sunday. So Sunday the 25th is when we will get the next WhipGo calls. I think that I will try to film my next update video on the 25th as well, so that I can show you what my WhipGo pieces are in advance of the next month. I think that would be a lot of fun, rather than halfway through it, like happened this time around. But we'll kind of cross that bridge when we get there. I don't love uploading twice on the same day, so we'll see. Okay, so that is it for the plans. Let's talk about a little bit of haul, but really just a very little bit here. From my in-laws, I got a gift certificate to 123 Stitch, and I used that to purchase a yard of fabric to be able to start cherry blossom breezes, because I didn't have enough in my stash. I had one that would have meant that I would have had, I think, like less than an inch side margins, and that's just a little too close for comfort for me. So bought that fabric, so I have leftovers with probably some plans to go with it, but we'll talk about that later. But one rather large piece of fabric cannot travel alone all the way from Texas. It's a long way. So I bought a chart that I don't think I already have, but there's a risk there. So this is La Capati by Bella Filipina. I don't think I already have this, but I might already have this. So I'm gonna have to dig into my stash. I was trying to be quick to make sure that I got that fabric in time. So I will have a look through my stash, and this might be a future giveaway because it's really feeling like I might already have this. Yeah. I just decided to go with a Bella Filipina since I do a lot of my shopping through Sammy J Stitches and Tiny Hummingbird Stitchery, and Bella Filipina is one of the ones that she's unlikely to get. So yeah, decided to throw a Bella in there. I love Bella. I love their designs. They are fantastic. Okay. From Sammy J Stitches, I got the next installment in the Fabulous Houses series by Cottage Garden Samplings, the Greenhouse. This one looks like it might be fast. This one looks like it might stitch up fairly quickly. And this has no fancy floss in it. Fun fact. So there's that. And then I am so excited about this piece. This is A Symphony of Friendship by Cottage Garden Samplings. Much love for this. This design is humongous. This chart feels thick. Let me see, where's the stitch count? Where are you? 379 by 229. So yeah, solid weekender. Yeah, this is a big one, but it's stunning. It is absolutely stunning. And so Beth Ann and I are going to start this the weekend before my birthday in April, which I think is fantastic. That is marathon weekend. I don't know that I'm going to get to participate in 24 hours of cross stitch that weekend, but I'm nonetheless going to get this started, and I am geeked about it. So that'll be very fun. I have to pull fabric. I am likely gonna just stitch the DMCs because the overdyes, I'm probably just gonna use the DMCs. Oh, I'm so excited about that. Over the course of this video, my nose is getting more and more pink because I am dealing with off-screen some serious FlossTube itchy nose today. So in case you're wondering, it's not freezing in my house. I've got FlossTube itchy nose like crazy. I have one more piece of haul, and that is a full coverage design that I cannot stop thinking about. I have no business I have no business with a new full coverage design in my stash, with a new Heaven and Earth design in my stash, but it hit me at the right time. I was on my computer when they announced their latest sale, for whatever reason it was. And it was a 50% off sale, and so I was like, oh, let me peruse over in my wish list and just have a look-see. And this actually wasn't on my wish list, but another design by Margaret Morales was on my wish list, and so I clicked through looking at Margaret Morales's pieces, and I remember when this one was released, jaw-dropping. I love this piece. It is so beautiful. The ravens and the blue and the magnolias. This piece was made for me. This is Ivory Crow by Margaret Morales. It's another big design. I came very close to getting the Max Colors version, but I pulled up the mock-ups for both, and I didn't notice enough of a difference to quadruple the number of colors. So I decided to just go with the regular size, regular colors version, and it's going to be stunning. I'm trying very hard not to start that. The yard of fabric that I cut for Cherry Blossom Breezes left me a section that is perfect for Ivory Crow. So I have no business starting another full coverage anytime soon, but perhaps once I get a bingo on my full coverage board, maybe then I'll let myself start that. I don't know. We'll just kind of have to cross that bridge when we get there. Maybe it's a situation of I wait till the end of the year. I love it. I love it so much, and I'm really geeked about it, and I want to start it. I want to start it now. But I won't. I'm going to hold off because I'm feeling behind on my goals for this month, so that one is going to stay at the forefront of my mind, but not at the forefront of my whips. So that is it for the haul this time. I am participating in Stitch from Stash this year, and I'm doing really good with it, and I'm hoping to continue that trend. I have made no Nashville Market pre-orders because what I don't need are charts. But some of y'all are really, really testing me. I'm looking at you, Holly. I'm looking at you, Kathy Barrick. I'm looking at you, Liz Matthews. I mean, really, my resolve is being severely tested. So I might place a small pre-order. I got to do that fast here because market is a blink and a half away. So, but yeah, if I do, it's definitely to go through Sammy, Tiny Hummingbird Stitchery. She is always linked in the description box below. She is on Facebook. That's where her shop primarily operates currently. So head over there if you haven't placed your market pre-orders yet. She's got everything in albums, super easy. So head over there if you haven't yet placed your market pre-orders. I know that their deadlines have passed, but there's still plenty that you can still shop with. So get your market stuff. Okay, let's head into a bookish conversation. It's going to be brief. I'm not going to do the book reviews for everything that I read last month. Head over to my Instagram if you want very short reviews. I'm not really one for reviews. Like, I don't know. I feel weird doing that. It used to be my living. Like, I used to run a almost successful book blog. And it's just not my thing anymore. So, anyway, head over to my Instagram if you want quick recaps of the books that I read in January. Today, we're just going to talk about the books that I'm currently reading and what came up for my bookish whip go for the month of February that I'm hoping to be able to get to by the end of the month. Currently reading. My bookish whip go call for January that I haven't finished yet is Written in Red by Anne Bishop. This is the first in the Others series. This is paranormal fantasy. So werewolves and various and sundry different mythological and paranormal creatures. Definitely some mystery aspect to this. I am hardly into it, so that's where my bookmark is. So no comments from me yet, but this is Bookish Whipco from January that I'm trying to get read. It, however, was temporarily put on hold. So here's what happened. At the middle end of last year, I started reading the Crescent City books by Sarah J. Maas. So House of Earth and Blood, and then House of Sky and Breath, in anticipation of House in Flame and Shadow that published on January 30th of this year. So I was trying to get those two read before CC3 came out. I did it. I was able to finish both of them right there on the 30th or the 29th or something very close to that. So, woohoo! Very exciting. I've gotten my feed, my suggested reels, etc., has leaned a lot more bookish as of late, because that's the content that I'm interacting with most on Instagram these days, as far as reels are concerned. And so I started getting some book talkers and bookstagrammers who were talking about the fact that CC3 is very likely going to tie into Sarah J. Maas's other series, and create the Sarah J. Maas verse. And reaching the end of House of Sky and Breath can confirm, and I'm fairly certain that CC3 is going to dive even further into that, and it's going to really kind of bridge the series together. How much? I don't know, and I am avoiding spoilers like you would not believe. I am atrociously far behind on Sarah's other series. I am way far behind. I have read A Court of Thorns and Roses, just the first book in that series. I know, settle down. I'm working on it, okay? And then Throne of Glass, I have read the first two books in that series, both Throne of Glass and Crown of Midnight. So I have a lot of catch up to do before I feel like I should be diving into CC3, which is going to inevitably play on the events from those other series. I'm not there yet. I have, because you can't avoid spoilers altogether, I do have some inkling of some very generic things that happen in A Court of Thorns and Roses that may be relevant to CC3. So, but I don't know how detailed that's going to be, and I really don't want CC3 to spoil A Court of Thorns and Roses for me. So, I have decided to go back to the beginning of Sarah J. Maas's Maasverse and get going. I put up a poll that asked y'all to comment on which series I should start with. And I think probably 3/4 or more of you said that I should start with A Court of Thorns and Roses. Well, I decided to not do that, and instead I'm starting with Throne of Glass, because publication-wise, Throne of Glass was first. And so I'm just going to start there. The first time I read Throne of Glass was in July of 2012, and Throne of Glass was published in August of 2012. So I was on an ARC tour where I got to read the book before it was published. So the last time I read Throne of Glass, or the first time I read Throne of Glass rather, was 12 years ago. And I read it since then, but it's been a while. So I'm starting over. And so all of that to say, I am currently reading The Assassin's Blade by Sarah J. Maas. So this is a collection of novellas. These are prequel novellas. So what is happening in these stories was before the events of Throne of Glass. This was officially published after Throne of Glass, and I think maybe even after Crown of Midnight. But I think that these novellas were available on whatever social media writing platform Sarah started on, for which I can't remember. But anyway, so technically officially published after the fact, but I'm starting with this because some prequel history I think will be pertinent, will be important. So I am most of the way through. I'm using the dust jacket as my bookmark because I couldn't find a bookmark, and I'm not folding over corners. So I am probably 2/3 of the way through. So these stories, they're novellas that, like, on their own have their own building, climax, resolution, but they all kind of bleed into each other. So it's kind of doing this. Like, you can't read these, you can read them individually, but they make more sense if you read them in order, essentially. I think there's 5 total in here. So I'm in the midst of novella number 4, and it's interesting. It's interesting. It is interesting to read this after reading CC2 because of the evolution of Sarah's writing, and also the not evolution, which is also interesting. So that's where I'm at with my Mossverse. I am also currently listening to The 100 Years' War on Palestine by Rashid Khalidi. And I am also listening to Alice's Adventure in Wonderland by Lewis Carroll. I am a part of the Fandom Stitching Central group, and a part of that is a reading, and I have decided that I'm going to read the classics. The retellings don't really interest me all that much, but I am listening to the originals, the classics. And so I am currently listening to, like I said, Alice in Wonderland. It is narrated by Jim Dale. I picked it up on Libby, so I'm listening to it. It's only 3 hours. It's such a short audiobook, but it's narrated by Jim Dale, so it's phenomenal. It's super, super enjoyable. And so yeah, so that's that. Okay, let's get into the bookish whip-go, and then we will end this thing. So 3 and 24 were called for February. 24 for me was this book. This is Freezing Order, a true story of money laundering, murder, and surviving Vladimir Putin's wrath. What are the odds? So both of my bookish whip-go calls for this month were books that were recommended to me in the 12 books reading challenge. So I'm going to put down here who recommended this one. And so this will be interesting. This is outside of what I would typically reach for. So it'll be interesting. A financial thriller. Interesting. So I'm looking forward to seeing what all of this is about. My other book I picked up on audio, and it is The Queen's Poisoner by Jeff Wheeler. So cover image here. So this is more fantasy, and I am looking forward to it. Also recommended, so I will put the person who recommended it here. So thanks, y'all, by the way, for those of you who did recommend a book to me. I wasn't able to put them all into my bookish whip-go, into the 12 books reading challenge, but nonetheless, I appreciate everybody who submitted a recommendation there. And so that's what I have planned for reading. I doubt I'm going to be able to get to all of that. Something is going to have to get pushed to March, and that's okay. I am reading far more consistently this year, even into February, far more consistently than I have the last few years, and that feels great. That feels great. So, I think that's everything. I have decided, so I'm not doing FlossTube recommendations necessarily because, like book reviews, I just feel I don't feel like I have the right words to say what I want to say. But I have been watching some FlossTubes lately that aren't necessarily in my regular watch list, or they're fairly new. So in the description box of this video, I have linked the FlossTubes that I have been watching lately. So feel free to check that out if you are looking for some more FlossTubes. I know that FlossTube is humongous these days, and so keeping up with the regulars is difficult enough, let alone adding in new ones. But our new folks, we've got to give them love as well. So check those out if you are looking for some new FlossTubes to check out. I have really enjoyed the FlossTubes that I have watched as of late. So I don't know that I'm going to do this every time, but I'd like to end my videos on a question just to give y'all something to chat about in the comments if you decide to leave a comment. What are you reading? What are you currently reading? And how's it going? Are you enjoying it? Are you not enjoying it? Please no spoilers, because it may be something that I might want to check out, or perhaps somebody else in the comments wants to check out. So no spoilers, but just let us know. What are you reading? Are you enjoying it? Okay, I think that's everything. I'm going to head off here and get this video edited and uploaded. For real, I'm going to edit and post this one because I don't think I hate this one like I did last time. And I will see you all in the next one. Like I said, maybe next Sunday. We'll just kind of cross that bridge when we get there. And so happy stitching. As always, be kind, and I will see you then. Take care, y'all.